You suck. You suck.
Let me go back to muting him down. This is a Heel of the Face podcast.
I'm sorry. Every time that plays, I have to say it. I'm sorry.
It is time now for our social media Smackdown of the week. This is where we divulge in our social media portals, mostly Twitter. We start things off with our Twitter question of the week. So without further ado, let's get to it. Now, this past week, I saw this in more than one location, but there are some rumors going around. And in WWE, the way that they've been doing things lately, I would not be surprised. But they are toying the idea of having 2 WrestleManias a year. You know, we've all talked before, why doesn't WrestleMania come to London? Why doesn't WrestleMania go to Japan? Well, WWE's like, we're going to do it, but we're going to like take both the money. We're not going to do it and like just leave people in the States hanging. We're going to have 2 WrestleManias, one in the US at the normal time in April, and then a international WrestleMania in the fall. And really, I kind of understand why people are thinking that WWE's toying with this idea, because look, for example, at the fact that WWE is hosting the Super Show, what are they calling it? The Super Showdown in Australia in October, and they're hyping that up like it's, and look at the Greatest Royal Rumble. They did the same thing, the Greatest Royal Rumble. Now this show in October, they're hyping up as, you know, this big to-do, you know, the biggest show in Australian history. They're hyping it up now. It's not till October, and this one's going to be on the WWE Network, and smart, at least on WWE's side. And a lot of people noticed that TLC was scheduled for late October in Boston, Massachusetts, and was canceled. I'm personally a fan of that because, again, I don't want the issue we just had with Backlash right after the Greatest Royal Rumble. I'm fine with WWE saying, yes, let's have a pay-per-view in another place. Let's get 60,000 people, and let's have it be that month's pay-per-view so we can build it appropriately. It's not just like a supplement show. We're not just going to throw out a WrestleMania, but then also still have to play like it doesn't matter. It's the biggest Royal Rumble in history. But also, folks, we got Backlash coming up, so it doesn't really matter. It's just a bona fide house show. But it's the biggest bona fide house show in the world, bigger than WrestleMania. But it's not bigger than WrestleMania, so don't get excited. Like, they don't have to go indifferent. They can hype it up like it's a traditional pay-per-view. They can promote the matches just like it's going to be TLC in Australia in front of 60,000. So, WrestleMania in the fall, an international location. So, 2 WrestleManias a year. So, obviously, a lot of people like myself are going to dislike this idea. So I'm not going to say, I didn't pose a question of, do you think it's a good idea? Because I think it would just be resounding no. So instead of that, I pose a question of, how much do you hate this idea? 50% said a lot. I'm there. 38 said just a little bit. 0% said indifferent either way. And then 12% said not at all. So 12% of people are actually... That's why I said, do you hate this idea? Because we would have had 12% of people saying no, and then 88% of people saying yes. That seemed like I already knew the answer to that question. So this kind of opened it up to some different answers. So where are you, Brandon, on how much do you hate 2 WrestleManias a year?
Okay, so I should have read the question a little bit better. I skimmed through it when I put my answer in.
So are you the not at all?
I put not at all, but I am.
So it shows that that's not even legitimate.
No, it's a lot. It's a lot. I meant to put a lot when I looked at it, and I clicked on not at all, so I didn't read it clearly. And after reading it, I'm like, oh shoot, I want a lot.
You thought it said, do you like it? And you're like, not at all.
Yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I did. So yes, so I'm in the majority of a lot. So that's you can knock out the not at all because that's not supposed to be in there. And actually, the updated numbers are, because I was just looking at the numbers, 23% not at all. And that was because I voted late, and I was kind of rushing through it, and I clicked it real quick.
Okay.
So the numbers are a little different, but I think in actuality it's going to be like 50% because you got to flip my vote over to a lot because I don't like the idea. Here's the thing: we have 1 WrestleMania. Why do we need to have WrestleMania 1.5? What are we doing? WrestleMania? How are we going to change it?
I'm fine with the idea that they're having a show in Australia.
That, yes.
They don't need to call it WrestleMania. They can just have a lot of good shows. Why do we have to have...
Like, why would you call the Greatest Royal Rumble the Greatest Royal Rumble? So
yeah, Extreme Rules was 4 hours long. It was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a very big city. It was a pay-per-view event on the WWE Network, and it was in the summertime. We didn't need to call it SummerSlam. We can just call it what it was, Extreme Rules.
Exactly.
And call something else SummerSlam. We don't, just because something's bigger or larger, we don't need to call it WrestleMania. Like the NFL, if they got 100 million people to watch a regular season game, they'd just be like, that's awesome. They wouldn't be like, well, we better call that the Super Bowl Plus. No, they're just like, no, it's just awesome.
Super Bowl, yeah. Extra large Super Bowl.
We don't have to come up with another name. That's just awesome. The fact that we can get 60,000 people to go to an event that isn't WrestleMania is just nice. It's awesome.
Yeah,
we don't have to.
It's a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
It's just a regular pay-per-view. That's cool. I like that.
That's fine.
Yeah, I'm completely fine with it. I still am not happy about the Greatest Royal Rumble idea. I just think that whole
I didn't
thing
like that. And, because the Australia idea is done. This is how it should have been done. The Australia one should have just been, I understand that they were under the gun, I guess, for the Greatest Royal Rumble, but this Australia event in October is more or less how they should have approached the Greatest Royal Rumble. One, not put it in like 2 weeks. I heard about the Greatest Royal Rumble literally, a month before, maybe less than that, before the event. Two, not take the place of a pay-per-view. So this takes the place of the October pay-per-view.
Which is fine.
So the Greatest Royal Rumble or whatever should have taken the place of Backlash. That event shouldn't even held. It should have just taken that place. Three, they're not throwing out any crazy matches that are going to disrespect other matches like the Greatest Royal Rumble. They're just like Triple H and The Undertaker. That's cool. Let's have that match. These guys don't wrestle a lot, so let's put on a special match. Apparently, it's doing enough right there to sell 60,000 tickets. So I don't understand why Triple H versus, The Undertaker wouldn't have been good enough to highlight that Greatest Royal Rumble pay-per-view. And third of, and it not just disrespected, Greatest Royal Rumble not just disrespected the Royal Rumble, it disrespected WrestleMania. The event was 6 hours long. Didn't need to be 6 hours long. Because last I remember, Saudi Arabia, they don't have a lot of wrestling there. So if they get any wrestling, they should just be... That's how WWE, in fact, treats their normal calendar. If you notice, they take house shows to smaller cities. The reason why they take the house shows to smaller cities and the pay-per-views to bigger cities, because Pittsburgh is not going to sell out a house show like, Altoona, Pennsylvania would. They look at it like Altoona, Pennsylvania is going to sell out a house show where we're going to give them crap because they're just going to be happy we came to Altoona, Pennsylvania. New York City, on the other hand, needs a little more something behind it for people to go to an event.
There's so many things. There's so much more things to do in New York City.
Well, and just in a big city in general. The bigger cities get the pay-per-views because they feel that the bigger cities wouldn't cater so much. Obviously, they still have house shows that go, and they don't get good crowds because people in like Atlanta are like, we're going to hold out for Raw to come to town. But people in these smaller areas don't hold out. They're like, oh, sweet. Binghamton, New York's getting, or Elmira, New York's getting a house show. That's why they have these house shows in smaller cities.
And those matches are not that great.
So the fact that Saudi Arabia was going to, WWE is going to Saudi Arabia, period, was good enough. They could have gave them a Smackdown house show, and I think they would have got 60,000 people because of the fact that they were getting appearances by these people that they never get to see. If the NFL, when the NFL comes to London, that's another good example. The NFL comes to London, it sells out every time. It doesn't matter that it's two crappy teams. It matters that the NFL's coming to London. They're like, I don't care if it's the Jaguars. That might matter to people in Jacksonville who see this team every single week.
It could be like the Jags versus the Ravens, and you got people wearing Giants gear, Cowboys gear.
Yeah, just because it's coming to town. I don't care that it's not a good matchup.
It's football,
yeah. If Alabama college football comes to your small little town in northern Alaska, that's going to get a good crowd.
It's going to be a big deal.
Because So the fact of the matter is that WWE could have went to Saudi Arabia and didn't need to disrespect the Royal Rumble to try to sell out. And they didn't even, let's be serious, they didn't even make a lot of money on ticket sales. It's been quite apparent that the tickets went for a few bucks a piece. So it's not like they needed a Royal Rumble to, could they have not just sold 60,000 tickets at $1 a piece anyways?
Yeah,
without doing that? This Australia show seems a much of a better idea. We don't need it to be WrestleMania. The Australia idea is fine.
We don't
even need it to be Super Showdown. You could have just said, okay, TLC was supposed to be in Boston, not going to be in Boston. Now make TLC, make that TLC.
TLC in Australia.
Yeah.
Something, they'll come up with some, cheesy
We don't,
thing,
just because they go to an international location doesn't need to be treated differently. I never really understood the idea. Remember the UK only pay-per-views back in the day? Rebellion, Insurrection.
Yeah, why? Yeah.
They could have just gave them the regular pay-per-view. They would have Backlash and then Judgment Day, but between Backlash and Judgment Day, they'd have like a UK pay-per-view called like Insurrection.
We don't need to have specialized pay-per-views for these overseas. You
can just have the pay-per-view. Yeah.
Just have the pay-per-view.
Instead of Extreme Rules being in Pittsburgh, you can have it in London.
And here's the thing. If you're going to travel, I know obviously there's a travel thing with Australia. On the way back, just do different, maybe do on your way back, go to a random country and, maybe go to Italy.
It's not even crazy. You could have just
go to Raw, have Raw in Milan, Italy or something.
Well, they've done that before.
No, I'm saying, on your way back, so you're not worried about you have
I
live
think
events.
you go back the other way. I think you go from Australia to California.
Well, maybe you go through Europe.
But the idea is you could have had a pay-per-view in Australia, and then you could have Raw and SmackDown in Australia that week, and then be back the next week, Raw at Staples Center or
but
whatever.
I think they would cash. I think they would cash in, like maybe like hit a few countries out in the Middle East out that way.
Is that what the WWE does? Last I remember, when they go to SummerSlam in New York City, they literally stay in New York City for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, they do, which is annoying. Go to a different venue.
So they would obviously they can have the.
So you would propose do the Australia show.
I'm
the
just saying,
pay-per-view,
none of
then
these
Raw,
shows need to be
SmackDown,
special.
and then take the week off.
We don't need to have a WrestleMania in Australia or in London. We can just have WrestleMania in London. We don't have to have like, oh, we're going to London, well, we better have another. No, the regular WrestleMania in London can be fine. Most of the people that go to WrestleMania travel to it from around the world. I am already traveling to it most of the time. Obviously, it's within the States, but it doesn't really matter if it was in London. Then I fly to London for that weekend. It might be a little pricier, but
you're making the trip.
People make the trip.
You're making the trip.
So it's not really a big deal. So we don't need 2 WrestleManias here. You just have the one WrestleMania a year.
So do we agree if the way they should do it is like do the main, do the pay-per-view in Australia and do, SmackDown, Raw and SmackDown right in Australia, and then no live shows, and then come back Monday night the following week.
I mean, if you
give
keep track
the wrestlers
if
a
you
week
keep
off.
track of the house show schedule, they do that stuff now anyways. How often there are so many before the Greatest Royal Rumble, they had Raw and SmackDown that week in the States, the Greatest Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia. They were back in the States for Raw and SmackDown,
which was logistically stupid.
So, I mean, they do that stuff all the time. They had, like I said, Monday and Tuesday in the States, then Saudi Arabia on Friday, then Monday and Tuesday in the States, and then they had, Monday and Tuesday in Canada, and then same thing, North America. But regardless, the point is they come back and forth. So they could have the pay-per-view in Australia on Saturday night and be back in the States on Monday if that was a big deal for Monday Night Raw. Like, it's not a huge deal. Just have the pay-per-view schedule the way you have it now. The difference is you just have the locations be different. That's it. I mean, you don't have to make special events. You don't have to call it anything different because it's in London or in Japan or in Australia. You just call it Extreme Rules. You call it Money in the Bank. You call it Tables, Ladders, and Chairs. You call it Survivor Series. You don't have to call it or make it something that it isn't. So I think the answer is I'm agreeing with the majority of people that are really, it says 44% because he's an idiot, but it's really like 70%. We don't need 2 WrestleManias. End of the story there.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say I just read it too fast.
So we're going to move on to our tweets of the week. Last week, I think I had a internet post that wasn't a tweet of the week. I did actually come with a late tweet of the week last week. Colin Delaney and James Ellsworth.
Yes, good stuff.
I saw that in the same locker room.
Well, nice.
Colin Delaney making some 205 Live appearances.
Good to see Colin Delaney back in the WWE circuit. I like it.
So we're going to go to your social media post of the week. He's going out of Twitter this week. What do you got?
Yes, I'm going out of Twitter this week. As I like to go to Buffalo for, concerts and I don't travel as much as you.
I can kind of see a thing, and I have almost the same picture if I'm seeing what I see. Who went to Duff's this week?
Yes. Okay. So every time I go to Buffalo, there's one place I go for wings.
Duff's is better than Anchor Bar.
Duff's is the place to go.
Duff's is the place to go.
We agree. So, and of course, my phone goes off as the middle of that. So I went with Seth Rollins, Ronda Rousey. I think, let's see, looking at the picture, Natalya. Oh, look at Bayley and Sasha hanging out.
Let me see that. I gotta see that.
Yeah, look at. Yeah, Sasha. So Sasha and Bayley are still friends.
And that's the original Duff's as well, if I'm not mistaken. That's the one, because there are 2 Duff's locations. There's one that is an old Ponderosa location. I've been there.
I've been to that one, yes.
And then there's the one that's up by the college that is like a no frills. The one that from that picture.
Yes.
So I went to that Duff's actually before, if I'm not mistaken, what was the before Battleground 2013, and where we saw one of those muddy finishes. It was a vacant title. Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton were going for the world belt. This was before Daniel Bryan was making his big push of being a champion. Yeah, and Big Show came out and chokeslammed both of them.
The Duff's that I usually go to is not that one. I usually go to the Duff's right by the the Key Center now? Key Bank Center is that what they call it now? When I went, it was the first Niagara.
No, so I don't think there is one downtown.
It's like 10 minutes away.
Okay.
It's like on the outskirts. That's where we always go.
Is it over by the mall? Is that what you're thinking of? Because there's a Duff that it looks like an old Ponderosa.
It is like an old Ponderosa, yeah.
Yes.
So that's the one.
Okay. So I've been, and then the Duff's that they took the picture of, that is over by the college.
That's the main one. That's the first one. I think
it's diner tables, like no TVs. It's like a no frills, like kind of place.
Oh man. I wish I was.
Duff's is better than Anchor Bar. I've been to Anchor Bar. I went one time before another WWE pay-per-view. I don't go to Buffalo too much unless WWE's in town. Before Night of Champions, where the main event was Triple H versus CM Punk, I went to Anchor Bar. And while Anchor Bar is really good, I went there before I went to Duff's. As soon as I went to Duff's, I realized one invented it and then one perfected it.
I agree. And and I will say this: I have not been to Anchor Bar, so I can't say I can taste the difference. But I have trusted sources that are chicken wing fans like myself, and I take their word as gold in my book. And they these folks have all unanimously said to me, you have to go to Duff's. So Duff's is fantastic.
So my social media post of the week, I got 2 tweets of the week. And they're kind of related to Monday Night Raw in Buffalo this week. So it's kind of, we kind of picked these out because of their local ties to him. So Elias, after his performance was cut off on Monday Night Raw, Michael Cole was very upset that he did not get to finish it. And he was comparing it to seeing, and I did some research, County Fair, which I did some research is a song, apparently popular song, by Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, I'm not
There's
a
no
Bruce
band
guy.
named County Fair. There is a song called County Fair, and it apparently made its tour debut and was performed live for one of the very first times on September the 20th, 2003.
Okay.
At the Darien Lake Amphitheater, which is right outside of Buffalo, New York, Darien Lake Theme Park.
Okay, that's
the
cool.
exit. And so Michael Cole said that was as good as County Fair. I saw County Fair at Darien Lake. So 2 people noticed it. I thought it said very quickly, but 2 people noticed it. I was not alone. Los, you can try to pronounce this.
Ingobernables de Carne.
At Carne_Los said, did Michael Cole say he went to Darien Lake? And then Mike McLean at awesome1_awesome_.
I want to say Mike McLean. That's correct.
Like McLean?
Yeah, McLean.
McLean. I would say McLean.
No, it's not McLean.
We have a company in Syracuse, New York, if you were watching, called McLean Northeast, and they spell it exactly
No,
this
they
way.
do not. They spell it L like Lane, Lane. That's McLean. Trust me,
I've never heard anyone say McLean.
McLean.
Okay. And apparently he's a Western New Yorker because his avatar, his picture, is of a garbage plate. So
I know you're a fan.
_awesome_life said Michael Cole just shouted out Darien Lake
of course,
on Raw.
Of course,
Buffalo.
you would notice the garbage plate because you're a foodie guy.
So we just talked about some Duff's wings. So if you're in New York, get some wings in Buffalo and a garbage plate in Rochester, and you've pretty much done the upstate New York tour. And a Hoffman hot dog maybe in Syracuse.
Syracuse has a lot of choices, man.
Do they have a lot of choices?
Yes.
I'm not a salt potato person.
Wait, you don't like salt taters?
No.
What?
Who calls them salt taters?
I call them taters.
Well then,
dude, I grew up on salt potatoes, man.
You're putting a southern accent on a Syracuse staple.
It's delicious.
Salt
taters. That's what I call them taters, man. But nonetheless, it is good. And by the way, I know not to get too far off, but I'm definitely going to be checking out the Elias record. Can't wait to see it next week. I'm excited. I might
July 23rd.
I might be. I might have to.
Thought he was shouting out my birthday, but no, he's shouting out that his record comes out.
Wait, your birthday's the 23rd?
The 23rd of July. So
Elias is doing that for your birthday, man.
He's doing it just for me.
That's wonderful. I might have to buy it.
I know.
Right, Elias is the man, so that's awesome. It's a good birthday gift.
Final thing I wanted to actually mention, kind of strange, but I think this is really cool, kind of transcends sports a little bit. Outside of social media, I think he posted it on Twitter, though, this week. So I went to a Toronto Blue Jays game 3 weeks ago, and before the game, they kind of do like a player profile. And Curtis Granderson mentioned they did a player profile on the scoreboard while, you're waiting for the game to start, asking him stupid questions about his favorite video games, nonsense. Favorite live sporting event he's ever attended. And he went into detail about how he's a huge fan. Favorite live sporting event he ever attended, he said, was WrestleMania. Huge wrestling fan. They put up the graphic for WrestleMania in Orlando. I don't know if that means that's the WrestleMania he went to. That could have just been the easiest ones they found. But it mentioned that his favorite live sporting event was WrestleMania. And this Sunday, because the Blue Jays are home this whole week, he will be at Bound for Glory as the ringside holder of the title. And he put out on social media, I'm not exactly which platform, that he is very excited to be a part of Bound for Glory. Curtis Granderson. is going to be a part of Bound for Glory.
That's cool. The Grandy Man, huh?
Yeah.
The Grandy Man's
It's going to be a part of Bound for Glory this Sunday night.
I did not know that until now. That's cool.
I did not know that he was a huge wrestling fan until they said that.
That's cool.
At the game on the scoreboard, and then I see on social media that I heard somewhere that a Toronto Blue Jay was going to be involved, and I'm like, yeah, maybe, probably. You say Toronto Blue Jay because it could then be like an absolute nobody. But then they said Curtis Granderson, and I'm like, well, he transcends more than the Blue Jays. I mean, that's cool. He's a popular Yankee, Met, Tiger.
Yeah, he's had a hell of a career in the majors. So
yes,
so that's cool. I did not know that. So Grandy Man is now a fan favorite of mine now. So just because of that.
Yes.
He's a good baseball player, good guy, but it puts him on a whole nother level when you're a wrestling fan.
So he will be a Bound for Glory, holding the title between Austin Aries and Moose, and crowning the champion.
Well, that's cool.
Well,
I'm glad he's going to be a part of it. That's cool.
Do I keep saying Bound for Glory? I mean Slammiversary.
It's the same difference in my book.
Yeah. And that's the problem with Impact Wrestling is they don't have that kind of Bound for Glory and Slammiversary, these events. It's really just, the bigger event, like what they put on. I guess like WrestleMania is such a staple now. The best Impact Wrestling event is pretty much the best one that they put on. It doesn't have to be a name because Slammiversary looks like they're putting more effort into it than they did Bound for Glory since its new ownership has taken over.
I mean, it looks like a decent card. So I mean, we'll see how it goes. I might check it out one of these days. I'll wait till it's on the third party circuit.
So that is going to do it for this week's edition of the show. That was a social media Smackdown. Follow Icebreaker21 on Twitter at Icebreaker21. Follow myself, Jared Wicks, on Twitter at Jared Wicks, and follow the program at Heel to the Face. If you're on your computer or on your phone, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube, as well as find us on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Sportsboard Radio, and